I'm back with another video. This will be my third installment of Dane Calloway's Stop Lying. This video is very important to me because this is a reactionary video to a video he posted about Nat Turner, whether or not he was real or not. What troubles me is not bad enough that white people and agencies like, or groups, institutions like McGraw-Hill in their textbooks are teaching American children that slavery wasn't so bad. Even Ben Carson suggests that we were immigrants. Now, what's bad enough? If that wasn't bad enough, now you have a person like Dane Calloway who's suggesting that Nat Turner wasn't even real. So I really have a problem with Dane Calloway. So what we're going to do, Dane asked a lot of questions regarding whether or not Nat Turner was a real person. And so what I'm going to do is basically demonstrate that Nat Turner was very real. Okay? Now, Dane prides himself on being this great researcher and historian. Constantly brings up the fact that he's been to the Library of Congress and the National Archives. And so somehow we're supposed to be impressed by that. But if you watch this video, and I'm going to give you the title of the video, it's called The Reason Why Nat Turner's Historical Sites and Artifacts Were Removed. And in that video, he makes the suggestion that the Nat Turner story that we've been told about, featured in film, really is not a real story. Pretty much is a made-up story. And he's based that on the Confessions of Nat Turner. I believe that was written by Thomas Gray. He was an attorney back in those days. Okay? So he raises a lot of questions. He says that all the information that was published about Nat Turner, to him, just didn't add up. And the reason why I don't think it added up, because he doesn't understand the chronology. Okay? And I'm going to walk through a little bit about this chronology. Now, this is a page taken out of his book. I have the book. And as you can see one of the pages in the book. And as you can see, the title says, An Approximate Chronology of the Southampton Slavery Revolt. Okay? Now, one of the questions he asks is, what evidence do we have to lay claim to the Nat Turner story? He says there's no evidence of Nat Turner's story, just a story that we've been told about him. He questions the Nat Turner story because he says the dates aren't adding up. I don't know what he's talking about. Apparently, he didn't go to the Library of Congress for this information, or the National Archives for this information. All the information that I found is compiled in this book called The Southampton Slavery Revolt of 1831. And it's basically, let me read what it says on the back. This case book on the most significant slave revolt in America's history adds an important dimension to the studies of slavery in the United States. Traeger, who's the author, has not only collected all the extant primary documents, the trial records, newspaper accounts, letters, diaries, and other contemporary sources, much of which are published here for the very first time. He made several trips to Southampton County to retrace the steps of the rebels and to interview the present inhabitants, both black and white, on a local tradition surrounding Nat Turner. So this is a complete book. Now, unfortunately, I can't go through the whole book, but let me tell you what's in this book. You have pictures of actual documents signed by the governor, lawyers, and what have you. This was real. You have trial summaries, and we're going to get to that later. But this is an approximate chronology of the events. And I'm just going to, I believe I printed all 4 pages that's in the book. Okay. So Dane's issue with the Nat Turner story, he just couldn't figure out how did the militiamen capture him so fast. How did they quell the revolt so fast? He says, this was a big area. How did it happen? Okay, I'm going to read a portion, and I know it's difficult for you guys to see, but it says August, the 22nd of August between 2 a.m. and sunrise. Okay, that's the second from the bottom. Okay, and listen to this. The group reached the home of Mrs. Petey Reese, where they killed her, her son William, and severely wounded the farm manager, James Barner. On the way, they bypassed the homes of Miss Harris and the Noosa family. Now, they didn't kill James Barner. He probably was able to tell someone what happened because apparently they passed the homes of Miss Harris and the Noosa family. So that's one possibility of how the militia or the county of Southampton found out about Nat Turner. Okay, let me go to the second page. Okay, let me see if I can find... okay. This is the third... August 22nd is the third one from the bottom. And it reads like this. The group arrived at the home of Levi Waller, where they killed Mrs. Waller and 10 or more children, some of whom were in school there. Mr. Waller, who observed his attack from hiding, was a witness in several of the subsequent trials. He fixed the time between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. So that tells you right there that there was a witness. And certainly this white man informed the governor, the militia, that a slave revolt had taken place. Now, I'm going to try to find something that was very interesting. And this kind of alluded to the movie, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. Because this was a part, I'm trying to remember, I should have marked it, where he came across a home and he had encountered slaves who fought against him. Now, obviously, I'm trying to remember where did I see that at. But nevertheless, it's here. I just can't locate it right now. But apparently, there were slaves who fought against Nat Turner. And I'm sure they were witnesses as well. You know, so basically, this is the last page of the summary. Okay, now if you read the bottom portion of the page, let me get to it. It reads like this. The chronology is based primarily on Nat Turner's own confession. This is the part that Dane has a problem with. He don't believe that is real. Nat Turner made no reference to the homes of the Wiley Francis, nor to having bypassed several homes which lay along the route of the march. This information has been added from the account given by William Sidney Drury in the Southampton insurrection and from some of the evidence brought out at the trials. In those incidences where the items contain information in addition to the given in the confession, this has been indicated by the star sign. Now, what I want to do, let me go back because this is important. I'll go back real quick. Now, if you look like here, you see a star sign there. You see a star sign there. You see several star signs. These indicate information that was not based on Nat Turner's confession. These were either eyewitnesses' accounts or other evidence that was gathered that pinpointed the times of the killings. So, Dane, you can't rely on the confession by itself and say that it's false without any evidence whatsoever. Like I said, everything you want to know is in this book. All right? Let me see if I can pull this up. Okay. here's another page in the book, a selection of newspaper accounts. As you can see, listed all down here are newspapers that talked about the revolt. Now, you can look up individually all these newspapers and they will talk about the revolt. Okay, so this is not made up, Dane. This is real. This is real stuff here. Okay, now also in the book, if you could read this, it says the summation of trials of individuals commenced with the Southampton resurrection. Now, these are the trial records. These are a summation of the trials. Now, let me see if I could get to that page. I should have had bookmarkers and all of this stuff. Wow. I don't know why I didn't do that. But anyway, forgive me. Just bear with me for one moment. And let me see if I can find... Okay, here we go. Now, there are several pages here that deal with the trial record. Okay? This is just the first page. And I'm going to skip the first page and I'm going to go to the second to the last page. And it's hard to make out, but this is Nat Turner. He was tried on the 5th of November, 1831. So I think I made a bigger, let me see, here we go. So this is enlarged. Nat Turner, slave, okay? And his lawyer was William C. Parker. That reminds me, in Dane's video, he says that his lawyer was, I think his name is James Strange. What is his last name? Oh my God, I should know his last name, but I don't. Something Strange. Anyway, that wasn't his lawyer. His lawyer was William Parker. And let me see if I go back here. And if you could look over here, see right here it has disposition and remarks, name of counsel, and it tells you by here, this is how you could tell what's going on by this particular document. Number 1, name of counsel. Number 2, his plea. Number 3, his verdict. Number 4, value of the slave and remarks. So if you go down here under Nat Turner, you'll see his counsel was William C. Parker. All right? He pleaded not guilty. He was found guilty, and he was to be hung the 11th of November, 1831. Okay, so Mr. LOC didn't get the lawyer right. The lawyer was not this James Strange. I forget the last name, forgive me. But it was you know what? Probably I can find his name. Let me see. It shouldn't be hard because it's in the trial record. Because he represented, here we go. James L. French. That was his name. That was the lawyer name that Dane said represented Nat Turner. That was not true. So I would think someone with Dane's historical skills and research skills should have been able to figure that out. But unfortunately, he didn't figure that out. And let me just show you. Even if you went on Wikipedia, right? Even if you went on Wikipedia, I think. Let me see. Could this be it? No. Here we go. Here we go. James Strange French. Okay. Now look what it says. Career. Let's read that. It says 1831. French represented Nat Turner. Now even Wikipedia said that, as well as a number of other slaves accused of participating in Nat Turner's slave rebellion. French was joined in defending the slaves by Meriwether Bronax, William Henry Bronax, Thomas Ruffin Gray, who published the Confession of Nat Turner and commonly referred to as Nat Turner's lawyer, and William C. Parker, those assertions are not entirely true. Meriwether B. Bronax, sometimes written Meriwether B. Bronax, was a prosecutor, and his brother, William Henry Bronax, was not mentioned in court's minutes. William C. Parker was assigned by the court to represent Nat. In 1835, French helped to secure the communications of the sentence of the slave, Bosun. Okay, that's enough. So clearly, even Wikipedia corrected the record. So Dane was totally wrong. It wasn't French. It was William Parker. Now you would think someone of, like I said, Dane's caliber. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to call him Mr. LOC. You know, I'm impressed. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So the first error that Dane makes, he thinks that Nat Turner got caught like 2 days later. But he didn't. He hid for almost 2 months. And then he was discovered. And here's a picture of him being discovered. Now let me go back in the chronology. And let me see, go back to the chronology. And it talks about when he was... Okay, the 23rd of August, Nat Turner is hiding in the general vicinity of the Travis farm. He changed his hiding place several times, but never left the immediate area. October 30th, about 12 noon, Nat Turner was captured by Benjamin Phipps. And this is the picture of Benjamin Phipps, who captured Nat Turner. Because his whole thing was, if you look at his video, he was saying, how can he kill all these white people and stay in jail for 3 months? Now, how could somebody make a mistake like that who goes to the Library of Congress and the National Archives? Nat Turner was on the run. He only stayed in jail about 6 days. I tell you, if you watch this video, I mean, he's really, I don't know what's going on with him. I really don't. He just seems like I don't know. It's hard to make any sense of it. Okay, so then one of the other issues he makes, he makes a big deal about there are no pictures of Nat Turner. You know? And it doesn't stop to think, maybe there was no photography at the time that would have pictures of Nat Turner. So I went on Wikipedia. I know many people don't think it's a great site, but Wikipedia tells you that that modern day photography wasn't available in 1831. That may account for the reason why there are no pictures. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you go on Wikipedia, type in history of the camera, and you will see why there may not be any pictures of Nat Turner. Once again, trying to suggest that Nat Turner was not real. I can't believe it. So then he brings up Dred Scott. Oh, Dred Scott and Nat Turner was both born in the same county. And we got pictures of Dred Scott. But that was 1857 when Dred Scott was in court. Almost 30 years later. And at that time, there was photography. Why doesn't Mr. LOC know that? So, I don't understand what's going on with Mr. LOC. I really don't know. You know, so let's do this. You know, one of the main things they always say, ask your family members, right? I think he owes the descendants of Nat Turner an apology. And the reason why I say it, and there's a picture of his descendants. Okay, now this article right here, I'm going to read a little bit of it. Those are his descendants. They related to Nat Turner. Okay, here's the title of this article. Nat Turner's descendants offer his hiding place to be part of a driving tour. Now, if Nat Turner wasn't real, why would Nat Turner's descendants offer his hiding place to be part of driving tour? Nat Turner's family descendants still live on that property. Okay? So once again, I'm not going to read the article. Many of you could look it up, but I'm just saying it's an insult to Nat and his family and his descendants that someone would suggest that their relative or their ancestor was not real. It's an insult. Okay? So, like I said, I don't want to make this video too long because I could. It's a lot of information. A lot of information I didn't tackle in this video because it would be too long. But I just wanted to highlight some of the things in this video, and I want you to compare it to Dane's video and see how crazy his presentation is. Okay, now this is just a sidebar. I found this recently. For those of you Aboriginal imposters who keep saying that Dr. King said that we are indigenous, I want y'all to listen to this. Let me see if I can turn it up real quick. Let me turn up the volume. I had the volume down. Let me turn it up. Okay. Now let's play this.
In every other group that came as an immigrant, somehow, not easily, but somehow got around it. Is it just the fact that Negroes are black?
White America must see that no other ethnic group has been a slave on American soil. That is one thing that other immigrant groups haven't had to face. The other thing is that the color became a stigma. American society made the Negro's color a stigma. America freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality, and as a matter of fact, to get started on. At the same time, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that there was a willingness to give the white peasants from Europe an economic base. And yet it refused to give its black peasants from Africa who came, if it's black peasants from Africa who came here involuntarily in chains and had worked free for 244 years, any kind of economic base. And so emancipation for the Negro was really freedom to hunger. It was freedom to the winds and rains of heaven. It was freedom without food to eat or land to cultivate, and therefore it was freedom and famine at the same time. And when white Americans tell the Negro to lift himself by his own bootstraps, they don't look over the legacy of slavery and segregation. I believe we ought to do all we can and seek to lift ourselves by our own bootstraps, but it's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And many Negroes, by the thousands and millions, have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression and as a result of a society that deliberately made his color a stigma and something worthless and degrading.
What is it about the...
All right. So, that speaks for itself. That really speaks for itself. I don't know what more you can say. Now, there's this pastor that I love, man, and if he had to say something to Dane and what he's doing out there, Pastor, what you think of Dane Calloway?
You's a liar!
What is he?
What, TV?
What is he? What is he? Tell him again.
You's a liar!
What more can I say? I couldn't say it better.